Right now, Christians, conservatives, and freedom loving Americans are being censored and abused by our cultural gatekeepers. Why? Because we don't fight back. Not anymore. Freedom of Creativity is a directory of creatives and businesses who value the American principle of freedom. If you've got talent, join Freedom of Creativity to connect with other like minded creatives. You'll find creative projects to collab on, and you can post your own dream project and recruit a team to make it happen. And if you're a business owner, list your company on Freedom of Creativity so we can build a directory of businesses that share our values. It is vital to speak with our wallets and sow into businesses that support freedom over censorship and cancel culture. Listeners, guys, you must take action to preserve the country you love. Founder Tim Columba needs your help. Freedom of Creativity won't work unless people sign up and participate. Get listed and start rebuilding our culture today for free at freedomofcreativity.com. It's free to join and free to use, but if you upgrade and support Tim's fight for our culture as a fan of my show, the Rookie American Podcast, Tim is giving listeners 50% off for life when you use the promo code LISSETTE. Join today at freedomofcreativity.com, spread the word, and reach out to Tim Columba on social media at Freedom of Creativity US, where you can also watch his amazing videos. If you don't start influencing our culture, who will? The culture is in your hands. Welcome to the Rookie American Podcast. I'm your girl, Lisette Carter, and today's episode, we are going to be discussing veterans. Veterans are close to my heart. My entire family, I come from a family of veterans. My dad's a veteran, and my brother is as well, and my uncles, and I believe my grandfather was. And it's a subject that's actually very sensitive for me to talk about because I remember moving here from Puerto Rico. I lived in the South End. And I remember building a friendship with a gentleman who had lived in one of the apartments in the South End, which were very expensive, but he was a veteran. And he was always outside, and I would say hi to him and sit down and speak with him. And he would just say, I'm getting kicked out of this place soon. I don't have anywhere to go. And from observing the healthcare of, with my family when it came to veterans, and observing a lot of the issues that veterans had gone through with PTSD, with my cousins, just all kinds of issues that they had gone through when they were serving, I realized that veterans were not getting the best care of everyone in the US. My mom worked at the VA most of her life as a nurse. And I worked at the VA when I went into nursing school as well. I did a little bit of, I came to the States and worked in the summer in Brockton, Massachusetts. And I really did get firsthand knowledge, and I witnessed firsthand that these guys and these women that served our country are being pushed aside. And it really hurts my heart to see that and to witness it firsthand. And you guys know on my podcast, I did a podcast on the dangers of socialism, the original intent of socialism, and I'm not against it, but what I really do believe in my heart, what should be not so much socialized, but what should be a priority is the healthcare of our veterans. And that I wouldn't mind paying getting taxes taken out of for them to have the best healthcare in the United States. And unfortunately, that's not the case, and it hasn't been the case for a really long time. So I have here my new friend Calan Hunter, who is a best-selling author, ex-professional athlete, soldier, and professor. Has written multiple books, fiction, political books. Here in Massachusetts. And so I have the honor and privilege of interviewing him and for you guys to hear from him today. So thank you, Calan, for coming on.
Oh, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So tell everybody a little bit about your story, where you come from, how you got into the Army, into the military, and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. I grew up in southeastern Massachusetts. Uh, Typical. Dad was in the military. Both my grandfathers were in World War II. Had my grandmother was a nurse in World War II, so it's kind of embedded of me that I wasn't expected to serve, but I was given five choices when I graduated high school. They were, no, it was actually six choices: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or college. So I decided to do a little bit of both. I went into regular Army basic training 2 days after my high school graduation, came back and got ready for football season at university, and it was great. So during my senior year, I'm thinking, well, I'm getting all this free money and education. I was an MP. Um, all of a sudden, the first Gulf War happens, and I'm like, no. It's like, how
Mm.
did this happen? So I was like, I didn't need to sign up for this, but it was, I was a 21-year-old second lieutenant, as green could be, and all of a sudden I'm going overseas. And my dad gave me the best advice he could. He says, some of the senior drill sergeants that you've had basic training, those guys were ex-Vietnam guys, from that era.
Mm.
He says, you know what? Listen to them. Don't think you're this know-it-all kid. Say, don't like say, oh, we're going to do whatever you want, but gather information. Pull them aside, saying, hey, look, you've got more experience than I ever will have in my life. Please tell me, if I'm doing something wrong. Just pull me aside. And it worked out really well. I gained a lot of trust in myself and trust in the people that were around me. So when I came home, I grew up real fast. And then when you go back to college, and you're going from the frat house to the battlefield, it was just amazing. What an amazing experience!
I have
And
a
I always
question.
kept it. Yes, ma'am.
Before we move forward, there's a lot of listeners on here don't know a lot about history, and they're just learning through the podcast. Can you explain what the Gulf War was?
Sure. Basically, the first Gulf War we had was Iraq invaded Kuwait. Now, Kuwait is a very small nation. They're very oil rich.
Mm.
So Saddam Hussein, as we can all remember, in the first Gulf War, decided that he was going to go into Kuwait, and we had kind of a line in the sand. If he did go in, you know, a coalition of nations were just going to say, no, I don't think so. You're not going to go into a very peaceful Kuwait. If you people remember, we're talking history. Iran and Iraq had been in a big war. And if you go back to Ronald Reagan, Iran Contra, where Reagan sent weapons to the Iraqis, and they funneled money through Nicaragua. You know, back then it was the Contras and the Sandinistas and
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Ortega, who happened to end up coming back to office after. That was, directly. So we gave weapons to the Iraqis because we wanted that war to keep going. Believe it or not, for us, it stabilized the region because it kept the Saudis out of war, kept the Kuwaitis out of war, and that's where we were. All those OPEC countries. OPEC is where, at the time, we used to get our oil. Majority of it, anyway. So when, Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait, we put that nation. And, that was 1990, the end of 1990 into, early 91. So, just giving a brief history of it, we were the Iraqis came in and they just, basically tried to pillage. It was like the Vikings of old. That's what they basically were going to do. And we just stopped it. And, if you go in today, if you go into Kuwait, I mean, there's like George Bush, Herbert Walker Bush High School and George Herbert Walker
Really?
Bush Drive. It's incredible. Oh, they think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know if you kind of remember this, when Clinton came into office, the 41 went to Kuwait, and the Iraqis tried to assassinate him. And Clinton ended up sending missiles into Iraq after that. So that's one of the things that, just to let you know, you have a visitor.
There.
So that was one of the big things that, started like the second war, because I believe that 43 George Bush never forgave the Iraqis for trying to assassinate his father. So I think at the end of the day, that was one of his tipping points.
Wow, I did not know that.
And a lot of people will say that on the final decision, that tipped the scale.
Wow.
Was, that was it. And I don't remember if you knew back then, because when in the first Gulf War, we started the bombs. Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell wanted to go into Iraq, but Bush, the father, 41, stopped them at the border. I don't remember if all those oil wells that were on fire.
Oh yeah, that we would see pictures of in school.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I forget his last name, but he was Red. His first name was Red, from Texas. He had red hair. That was his nickname. He's a little older back then, but he was the one putting out all the fires.
Oh wow.
And I remember that. And I'll email it to you later so you can share. But yeah, I know. I can't remember his last name for the life of me. But they were putting the oil fields fires out in Iraq.
How long was that war?
96 days.
Oh wow.
If you one of my books, one of the most popular, it's Parallel Relativity. There's a few scenes in there that talks about the war and how quick it was, and you probably get more of a history lesson reading that book than you would anything else. But it's it's a novel.
Right.
Just a little bit about it. Yeah, it was really small, 96 days.
So now you get back and you go back to school. And what happens after then?
So I go back to school, and then I'm still in reserves. I ended up, instead of playing, I was a football player, then I ended up playing professional rugby for 8 years.
Here in the States, they had rugby?
No, I played in England. They do now.
Oh,
The professionals are coming in, but nope. I played overseas.
Oh wow, good for you.
And it was absolute blast. I finished my education, and then I ended up in the tech industry, tech fields, and I worked at tech companies, traveled, and after it was all done, I said, I went to school to write. And I wrote a couple of textbooks, and now I'm just gonna say, hey, look, I'm gonna start writing novels. And I was just very fortunate. I was teaching at Northeastern, and I just started writing, and it just kind of took off from there. So now I'm into the books, the movies, and.
You were teaching at Northeastern?
Yes, I was working full time and teaching at Northeastern full time.
What was your what were you teaching there?
I was teaching computer science.
Oh right, because
like
you
software
said the
project management and database design and implementation, all the things I was doing in the outside. But I ended up in the sales. I worked my way up from the bottom to the C level. So it was like, the ultimate goal was be a CEO, and when it happened, it was fantastic. But then I just decided, hey, look, kind of right.
Now, how did you get into the projects that you have going on now with protectourveterans.org?
One of the things that I've always been interested in politics. I mean, when I was 4 years old, I could name every president. That was like the thing. That was my parents always used to say my claim to fame when I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care about athletics. They didn't care about anything else. They just cared how I did in the classroom, and then I could name every president on the list when I was a kid. So politics has always been in my blood. So when it was learned that over politics have certainly changed in this country a lot. I looked at it, was going, listen, I'm comfortable. I'm happy. You get the house, the cars, ski house. You have it all. Then you look at a veteran who's homeless.
Right.
And I'm saying we're sending millions of dollars to get people that don't even live in this country monies. And then we have American citizens that actually fought for this company, bled on the battlefield, coming home, and we're just saying, okay, no problem. Do you know that 17 veterans commit suicide a day?
Wow.
That to me is outrageous.
Yeah.
And it's so hurtful in so many different ways. I I don't even know what to say. So that's one of those things that, it just made me say, hey, I have to do something.
Why do
A
you
couple of
think,
friends of mine.
sorry, where do you think why do you think this has happened here where we haven't been taking care of our own? Do you think it's a corruption in the government? What do you think it is?
It's how we spend our monies. Right, like right now, looking at Biden's new budget. So he wants to spend $6 trillion, but less than 2% of that budget is going to go to veterans. Okay, we we're facing the Chinese and the Russians. You only have 2% of a $6 trillion budget to spend on the military. Where's the money going to come from for new weapons? They're going to take it from veterans, the VA. The VA does a decent job of getting medicine at a lower cost, but there's just no money there, no real money.
Right.
And to clean it up, when President Trump came in, it was a big mess,
Right.
huge mess.
How did he
And
help? How did he help the situation? Because a lot of people don't know what he did behind the scenes when it came to the veterans.
the first thing he did was he allowed veterans who the wait times are ridiculous. It was almost like socialized medicine. I mean, it kind of is socialized medicine. Think about it. You'd have to wait, 6 months for an operation.
Right. You still there? I lost you.
You can go to your own. You can pick your own doctor. You pick your own plan, and the VA will cover it. So that was like the biggest thing that made the VA right the ship. Because hey, they don't want to be paying for regular doctors and regular hospitals. They want to put it in the VA system. And one of the biggest things is you couldn't be fired in the VA. So you could be the worst doctor in history, but you'd always have your job.
Why is that?
Unions, government employees, political appointments. So he said none of that. So as soon as you couldn't even fire someone. It was so many different levels. That's the first thing he stopped. He says, "You know what? You're not doing a good job. You're gone." And I think probably that is the biggest reason why the VA is starting on an upswing. But it's still not the best. It's still not great. I would say it went from a 2 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10. So you still got 6 to go.
Yeah, it can't take 4 years. It takes time to completely do an overhaul of that.
I mean, I think if he had 8, it would have made a big difference.
Yeah.
But but you look at Biden's budget, the first thing they want to cut, defund the police. It seems like he wants to defund the military.
Right.
So, one of the questions is, why did I get involved in this? So friends of mine said, hey, listen, we got to do something about this. And that's how Protect Our Veterans were born. Over a couple of Subway sandwiches and say, hey, what can we do?
So now what do you guys do with the money when it comes in? Let's say somebody donates. Where does the money go? How is it used?
Well, we spend 100% of all monies that come in go back out. Our main goal is, to make sure that we're working on getting people we're trying to get people elected that are actually going to make the changes. Because we have a certain set. Look, we want first thing we talk about. My first thing is homelessness, mental health. We can talk about it all day long, but if we can't get politicians elected that are going to do it, no matter what party is, it's there's Democrats who are in there in the military. We got to push it. Listen, you're in the military. You know what's going on.
Right.
You have to help.
Right.
So getting that political clout is most important to us, because that way we're going to get people elected and they're going to vote on these bills. If you just do it with one party, I mean, this is an anomaly where one party has the House and the Senate and the presidency, but they barely have the Senate because it's 50-50.
Right.
And, if people want to look at it, saying, Joe Manchin is the mid vote, tie vote. So when it came to the election reform that Democrats wanted to do, he decided he didn't want to do that. So it's going to fail. So we need people on both sides of the aisle and push for veterans, because there are veterans in the Democratic Party. There are veterans in the Republican, more so in the Republican Party. But Seth Moulton, who ran for president, Tulsi Gabbard, she was in the military when she was running for president.
She was the only Democrat that I liked, actually, that was running. Kind of.
But she is, she was on the Bernie Sanders wing until recently. And then all of a sudden she's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And she's changed and doing a lot, but she's out of Congress.
Right.
She has her eyes are thinking California. So she's moving to California to run for governor.
We'll see.
Just a little inside information that I found out.
I actually did not know that. How long does Newsom have left? Aren't they trying to get him out? Don't they have the signatures to get him out right now?
Yes. Oh, yeah. They're running, and Caitlyn Jenner is one.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
She's running against him.
Right.
Yes, she's running against. I got to make sure I get that right. So that's a story for another day. I mean, when I was a kid, I had a Bruce Jenner lunchbox.
Stop! Did you really?
Yeah, I was 7 in 1976. So if you think about it, I had a Bruce Jenner lunchbox. He was on every Wheaties box. And then I don't know if you ever watched Chips. With John and Ponch. Well, he took over for John for a couple seasons.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Bruce Jenner. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there going, Bruce Jenner is Caitlyn Jenner running for governor. Good for her. I mean, like I said, that's for another day.
Yeah, I can't comment on that right now. But I didn't know about Tulsi. That's an interesting piece of information. How long does she have to live in the state before she can run? She just has to be a resident. What's the qualification for that?
I think it's 6 months.
That's it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll give you an example. Hillary Clinton was in the White House, right? They bought a house in New York and she ran for senator of New York.
Yeah.
And her husband was still in the White House.
Yeah.
So it's not, Robert Kennedy did the same thing.
New York we have a local politician like that here in Oxford, where they bought a house here, and like a business manager. We don't elect her, but she's a town manager.
I did read about that.
She's not electable, but she apparently has a house here and she lives in another town. So I mean, it happens on every level. What's interesting, and I know we're segueing into another topic, but I had another podcast where I discussed the qualifications for running for president or running for Congress. And really, there should be obviously there should be term limits, but there should be a little bit more better qualification when it comes to running. I personally believe that you should have some kind of success personally, in some area of your life. Like Ben Carson is a surgeon. You know what I mean? Like he successfully detached two twins, from the head. So, people that have some kind of success in their personal careers or in their personal careers where they are qualified to run and say, I've done this and this in the community. I've done this and this and this in this field. I've achieved this. A lot of people, my husband does not agree with that. He's like, no, if you're an American citizen and you qualify, then you qualify. Anybody should be able to run. But now look you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders has never had a job in his life.
Did you ever? I remember as a kid where there was a mayor from Vermont who went to Cuba, and he was tied to Castro. And I remember that as a kid reading it in like Time magazine. So I noticed it the other day. It was Bernie Sanders. It was like old video clips, and I was like, I can't believe this. Like Bernie, I was like, yes, I remember this. So when you're saying that, it's like, right, you never had a job in his life, but look at you're talking about somebody who should have some experience. I mean, AOC was a bartender. I mean, she went to BU, but she was a bartender. And like, you want to talk about veterans with somebody like that. She don't want to hear it. She wants to defund the police.
Right.
And it's almost like the same thing. I'm like, do you realize what veterans have done for you? If they kept us safe? Right after 9/11, we went over there. We took the battle to them instead of letting them take the battle here.
Right.
And this is what they're going to get as far as treatment.
Yeah. It's a
awful.
shame. It's a shame.
We spent $67 million to house in a hotel illegal immigrants. Yes, they're illegal immigrants. They're breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. But you won't spend $67 million to help veterans with mental health problems. Right. Think about it. You're an 18-year-old. I was 21. At 21, I saw things that you can never take back in your mind. You're 18 years old. You're on a battlefield, right? You can't even buy a drink. In some places, you can't even buy a pack of cigarettes. But you can go on a battlefield, and once you're on that battlefield, you don't think that's going to shake up an 18-year-old?
Right.
He's still a teenager, 18.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. It just doesn't work. And I hear what you're saying about you should have experience, but I'll never pass. The Democrats want 16-year-olds to vote.
Right. I mean, and I have a 16-year-old, and I think it's funny when they say that all the time. And I had twins. My husband has twins that are 18 now. I remember what it was like when they were 16. It's just not. Obviously, they just want more votes.
Something that you're going to think about.
No, but you know what it is? It's that the reason why I firmly believe that the reason why they want them to vote is because public school system has been politicized, and they've already, if you talk to any 16-year-old, most of them in public school, they'll tell you right away which way they swing. Because of the influence that that stuff has been infiltrated into public school so that they can vote a certain way. So they already know which way the 16-year-olds are going to vote. They already know because they've been indoctrinated.
Of course. That's why you open up the border. Come on in.
Yeah. It's a shame. When Biden got into office, to see what's happening right now on the border, I can see how heartbreaking it is to see what those guys are going through. But at the same time, knowing that our own are not being taken care of, that money is being reallocated, to put them as a priority ultimately so that they can get their vote. It's happened for hundreds of years. That's how they operate. When they would come, I don't know if you've seen Titanic. In the beginning of Titanic, when Leonardo DiCaprio comes off the boat, immediately they give him a sandwich and they say, vote Democrat. It's the same thing. It's been the same way for hundreds of years. They've literally have done that. And it breaks my heart to know that these veterans are hurting and, dying because of the neglect of our government and the people. So hats off to you for doing what you're doing and, standing up and doing something about it. And it's a smart way to go to help the people that need to make these decisions, the politicians, to get them in office and to make sure that they're held accountable once they're there, that they vote, they do what they're supposed to be doing for their constituents. So it's ugly, man, when it comes to politics. I've seen, people will literally just change their completely core belief system the moment they get into office for the votes. You know what
Of
I mean?
course, it's how the wind blows.
Yeah.
I
Just
mean, Trump came into office and he told everybody exactly what he was going to do. He did exactly. He was the first politician in my lifetime that did exactly
yeah.
what he did.
Yep.
And I look at it now, and one of the things that I'm pretty proud of is I just went back to school in March.
Mhm.
And I'm now getting my doctorate in theology.
Mhm.
And as I get older, I spend more time um, praying, more time doing some self reflection. And I said, you know what? I really, really want to do this. So I went back to my old school. I says, you know what? I'm going to sign up. And I did. And it's been great because it just helps you just like self reflection. Like, what changes do I want to make in my life?
Mhm.
I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky. Okay. But one of the things I want to do is, did I help people enough?
Right.
Did I sit there and have I walked by a veteran on the street? Have Could I have done something? Not just I'm one of those suckers. I can't help it. I always give people money. People are like, why do you do that? I was like, they're probably not a veteran. I'm like, you know what? What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And then I say to and then I go home and do nothing about it. And then my friends and I says, look, we got to do something about this. I mean, we have to have a voice. We have to show people that it's not going to change. So you're a vet. Like, to me, it's almost a sin being a veteran, not helping out a federal veteran. If you think about it, like I hear about this, critical race theory,
Mhm.
which, as an ex-educated drives me up a wall.
Yeah.
And then I look in the military and I say to myself, what's critical in the military? That there is no racism. Because the guy to your left and the guy to your right, you're counting on to save your life in the battlefield. I mean, we went from this country was looking at red, white, and blue to all of a sudden now critical race theory. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's what you have to think about. So at the end of the day, I look back to the guys in the military. Okay, the guy on your right is an African American. Person to your left is Chinese. Person in front of you is Puerto Rican. Like some of your best friends, but I'm counting on each one of those individuals to protect my life, and they will know that I'm going to protect theirs. Because you wouldn't have a military if it wasn't that way.
Right.
We're a great big melting pot.
Right.
So to all of a sudden put critical race theory into the military, I'm like, it's just another thing that aggravates me. So when we say protect our veterans, it's just not all about healthcare or the VA. It's about homelessness. It's about jobs. It's about respecting your man to the left or woman to the right.
Mm.
And that's why we started it, because it just can't be just one thing. I could say, hey, all we do is, but that wouldn't be enough, because then you're forgetting about somebody else. Maybe you came back home, but you can't find a job. Okay, well, you've been pulled out of school. Okay, so you signed up to go to school, to pay for school. Now you've been going for 2.5 years. Okay, are you a little low on money? Because basically you're in the military, so if you don't have it, the military's not exactly, you're going to get rich.
Mhm.
Those other things, you got to protect. It's educate. We're working for people with education. There's so many different Gold Star families. You know, like an organization like Tunnel for Towers. They build mortgages, but their list is so long. I mean, they got thousands of people on that list to help out. I mean, I found out like they've given almost $500 million away.
Wow.
That's great, but if you have thousands of people still on the list, somebody's going to jump up and help. I
Yeah.
mean, it can't be just one guy in one organization. It's going to be a ton of organizations.
Right.
And I hate to keep harping on. I mean, you can't just say, "Well, people are coming in." There's no, people are always going to try to come into this country because it's the best country on earth. But you also got to remind it's the best country on earth because soldiers go out there and keep us protected.
Right.
I mean, we have soldiers all over the place. Name me another country where if something happens, we always show up. A sub sinks, we're there. Hurricane, volcano, nuclear disaster. Who shows up? United States of America. And the people that show up are generally the military. But we come back home and we're heroes on everybody else's shore. But I mean, I'm not saying this is the Vietnam War because it definitely isn't. But you know what? There's still a lot of ways that we can help. Like I said, mental health. I keep hopping on this, but 17 people commit
Yeah.
suicide a day. Veterans a day. Add up those numbers. You mean to tell me we can't help on that?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
some of the things in the VA is just medication. Oh, here's the Xanax. Here's this pill. Pushing people pills not gonna. All they're doing is masking the problems.
Right.
And then, all right, I get my pills from the VA. I get my medicine. I get this. That's not helping these individuals.
Right.
You're talking about groups. Hey, let's share. And it all starts in Washington. Because if you don't allocate the funds, it's just not all about money. But we all got to come together. So we have to make sure that that's being pushed out. And one of the things we want to do is, you want to get on TV, you want to get out there in radio saying, listen, when you see a veteran, go up, shake their hands, ask them if they need anything. If they're cold, hand them a coat. If they're hungry, hand them a sandwich. Just think of what they had to go through to be in the situation they're in now. Because when they left to go in a foreign land, they weren't like how they are now when they come back.
Right.
That's the things that we're trying to push awareness of what's going on.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. People definitely have to know. I mean, it doesn't get talked about enough. I don't hear about it at all anymore, unless I'm talking to someone like you, where, you know what I mean? Someone that's actually building something for the veterans, doing something for them. But honestly, you don't hear it anywhere anymore. About, the neglect of what's going on. Maybe once in a while on Tucker, we'll hear it, but that's
Right.
about it,
Once in a while, you get the generals on like Fox, Newsmax, OAN, but the mainstream media's not going to cover it.
No, not at all.
You just think about it. We send money to labs that release the virus, yet we can't get health care. I mean, seriously, what could have done? Like you go in the military, you're getting all those shots and things, and sometimes I felt like I was a guinea pig because you just line up in a line and you go straight through. And they got these guns just hitting you, boop, 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 all the vaccinations. You don't know what's going in your body.
Wow.
And you think about it, it's like, think of all the Vietnam veterans when they had the Ancient Orange.
Yeah.
Okay, well, a lot of them have cancer.
Yeah.
Especially now because they're getting in this, the 70s and their body's breaking down, and they're trying to say, hey, look, I have cancer. That came back. It's finally showing up. My body can't fight anything. And then you think about it when your body's breaking down. Oh, COVID comes. Okay, everyone says, hey, that's just the flu. Yeah, it's the flu. But the flu is going to break down somebody who has cancer or somebody has an immune system that was taken away. You know what happened? You don't know what happened in the Gulf War and things. Some type of, where it comes to mental health or physical health. And from what I understand, what came out, and actually came out from the Department of Defense, 1/3 of all veterans have a non-physical injury. So if you think about it, 33% of all veterans have a mental health challenge.
Yeah.
You're
Wow.
talking about 6 million plus veterans. 2 million of those veterans have a mental health problem.
Wow. Well, we're definitely gonna keep, you and your friends in prayer that are doing this to make sure that you have your hedge of protection. Not only that, but also to increase your coverage all over the United States. To make sure that you can reach more and more people with this organization and get the right people in office to fight for the veterans, because at the end of the day, that's actually really smart. I was really wondering where's the money going? Are they sending it to the VA, but putting it behind the politicians that are actually going to do something about it is the way to go. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, I appreciate it. And just one last thing.
Yeah.
We just talked about 6 million plus veterans. Okay, so if you think 2 million veterans have a mental health challenge, men and women.
Mhm.
Okay, so go after that. What about families? What about the wives? What about the children? You don't think a veteran who has mental health problems, say he has 3 children, okay, you don't think that's hurting those children? So just multiply that,
Right.
double it, triple it.
Wow.
I mean, it's just not the veteran itself, it's the veteran and the families.
Right.
That's why we try to help. You're thinking about Gold Star families. Hey, they need help too. You lose a spouse, a sibling, a parent. What is the government doing for them?
Right.
We want to bring attention to that. I try
Yeah.
my best to do the best I can.
Well, thank you, Calan, for coming on. Get a shirt. I have a shirt on. You can see it.
Fantastic.
Wear it all the time. Get a shirt. It's part of donating. He'll send you a shirt. If you do so, go to Protect Your Veterans. ProtectOurVeterans.org. Make sure you guys.
It sure looks great. Sure looks great.
Make sure you guys go to the website, donate, share with your friends, and also check out Calan Hunter's books too. That's so interesting that you can learn a little bit of politics and history with some exciting stories, exciting novels. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Calan, they can go to CalanHunter.com.
Calan.
Well, it's the Irish way is Calan, the American way is Calan, so they say both ways. So just like I said, go to CalanHunter.com. You can link up to ProtectOurVeterans.org and see about some of the blogs I've written and see some of the blogs I've written on the website. If anybody has any questions, you can contact me there or call our phone number. I'd be happy to chat with anybody.
And thank you for your service.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me. It's been wonderful.
All right, guys. See you guys later. Make sure you guys head to the website, share, and on to the next one. Thank you, Calan.
Thank you.